Hi everybody and welcome back to I Can View This All Day, and today we are talking about Fantastic Four 1994 by Roger Corman. This is a bit of an interesting one. This was never actually released and you can only really get it in bootleg copies or of good old YouTube. Mr. Keegan, what did you think of this?
I thought it was pretty good, man. I actually quite enjoyed this. Listen, there's more cheese in this movie than you put in a fondue. There's a lot of heart to this. You can really tell that every actor in it, whether they're great or not, we're genuinely trying to make a great movie here, and I think that comes off on screen, and that's more than you can say about a lot of movies that come out nowadays, you know?
I went into this thinking this was going to be dog shit. I really,
It's fun.
Loved it, maybe is not the right word. It's fun. We'll talk about the villains in the kind of pantomimeness of them later on, but the actual Fantastic Four, I think they were pretty damn good. Had this been released in 94, I could have watched this on like a made-for-TV movie.
I mean, a bigger budget, like for the most part, take this script, and this would have been a pretty great crack at Fantastic Four.
You know, you're absolutely right, a bigger budget, because even back in 94, you know, this had a paltry $1 million budget. You know, that's peanuts, really.
I think they get a lot out of that, though. There's some dog shit effects in this, like really bad. I think for the most part, the costumes are pretty decent for the time anyway.
Faithful Fantastic Four costumes by the end of the movie.
Absolutely, the Doom costume's awesome. You know, I like the little jeweler outfit, gave me leprechaun vibe.
Yeah, I got leprechaun vibes, which is why I thought he was one of the worst parts of this movie. So before we get in depth with this, just a little bit of backstory. As we've said, this is the Fantastic Four movie by Roger Corman, which was released in 1994. Now, this is part of a kind of a really convoluted story, which I'm not going to go into full detail on, but basically, Marvel sold the rights to Fantastic Four to Constantine Films, I think that's how you pronounce it, in a chap called Bernard, and I'll get the name wrong, James, because I can't do names. Bernard Etchinger, I want to say. Okay. I don't know if that's right.
I'll take your word for it.
But anyway, sold him the rights in 87. And by the time, you know, things marched on a little bit, they weren't making a film. And as they do in Hollywood, they were about to lose the rights because they hadn't used the property in X number of years. So they very, very rapidly pulled this together. They got Roger Corman, who's a very famous kind of B-movie director of the time, gave him a $1 million budget and said, produce a Fantastic Four movie. Everybody that went into this movie thought they were making a big budget Fantastic Four movie. They thought they were doing a proper kind of Marvel version of this series, and then on completion it just died, it just disappeared, and there was no press about it, there was very little discussion about it, to the point where the acting cast actually chucked in their own money to start promoting this at conventions,
to go to Comic-Cons and do signings, and they were given cease and desists. There was no orchestra hired for the score, so like people paid out of pocket for that. Yeah, it's crazy, and there's a really great documentary. It's on YouTube if you want a bit more of an in-depth look at this, but it's called Doomed. The story behind this movie is so fascinating.
One of the things that's interesting is a few years after all this kind of kicked off, Stan Lee in an interview confirmed that there was never any intention to release this movie. It was never Marvel's intention for this to see the light of day, which is pretty shitty, mind, of the studio to do that to all the acting talent.
To not tell anyone. Do you know, imagine working on this, like if you're playing Sue Storm or something, this is your big break.
So you mentioned the cast. There were some interesting characters in here. I think the one that jumped out for me straight away that I recognised was Jay Underwood, the guy who played Johnny Storm, because I recognise him from an old movie called The Boy Who Could Fly. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
I haven't, no.
I can't remember much about it. It was a typical kind of late 70s, 80s movie, but I recognised him in it. The rest of the cast, I have to say, I didn't really recognise, but I know you will probably know Ben Grimm.
Super Freddy. Yeah, he's super Freddy, yeah. And the weird thing is that he's like a big hunky guy, but he doesn't play the Thing in the costume, so the Thing is actually shorter when he becomes the Thing than when he's Ben Grimm. It's like, just get that guy to be in the suit.
Speaking of the suit, what did you think of the Ben Grimm Thing costume?
I think the lighting, listen, you have to give this movie a pass for various things, but like because of the way the lighting is, his eyes look like they're kind of blacked out for a lot of the movie, but I think the actual suit looks pretty good. Like, I think it's a fair crack.
I think it was damn good, to be honest. It surprised me how good that was, to be honest.
Very kind of Ninja Turtles-esque, I think.
Overall story, the kind of the makeup of the Fantastic Four, I thought was pretty good. I think you get a pretty faithful retelling of the origin. You get the interaction with Doom and Reed at kind of university and stuff. Do you know what? Let's be honest. Reed Richards is a randy old devil, and we've always known that him and Sue Storm, you know, there's a big age difference there. Yeah. I don't know if I liked it being shown on screen.
No. I hate when movies do this, when you have like a flashback or there's a time jump in the movie at some point, and you have one actor playing the character for both of those parts, and the other actor is a kid. I just find it really weird. It gives me the icks, you know? There's a weird thing with the romantic interests in this movie where people will literally have an exchange of dialogue, and then the next scene, I love you, you know? So like, with Ben I'm Grimm and Alicia Masters. Like, they literally said one line to each other.
I did laugh out loud at that point because literally they said one line, and then she's in the jeweler or the hell you call him kind of cave, and she just literally looks at him and goes, Ben, I love you.
And he's
I was like,
over,
where's that come from?
He's over the moon. Well, she's been sculpting his face, hasn't she? Like in the thing. I did think that was kind of a clever way of her figuring out who he was. Was she was given the memorial thing and did the face, you know?
The memorial bit, I mean, the way I understood the way the pacing of the movie, the ship had blown up. They were waiting to be picked up when that memorial work started. They were pretty hot. They were hot off the press getting that up and running.
Well, people
you know?
assume they were dead, and they even said, "Oh, it's going to be days till anyone finds us," and then it's Doom's people that go and get them. So nobody knows that they're alive.
So if I don't hear from you for a night, I'm okay to start making a memorial statue of you.
If I don't hear from you once an hour, Peter, I'm assuming that you've gone to heaven. You know?
You're straight onto the sculptor. Get a lot of clay. He's a big lad.
Yeah.
The worst part of this movie for me, James, I have to say, was the villains. And we'll touch on Doom in a minute, but to start with, the jeweler you've already mentioned, I can live with him to an extent, but it was these weird characters he surrounded himself with. It was very much pantomime.
Like Oliver Twist, like a Charles Dickens kind of vibe to it, I felt. And the music was very whimsical in those moments as well, so like that just felt like it was from a different movie, but I think it kind of lifted the film. I really liked those moments.
I did like Doom to an extent. I thought the costume looked good. It didn't look metal, mind, but it looked okay. And it was very faithful to the comic, I think. And at first, I liked Victor Von Doom, but then when we kind of got into proper Doom, I have to say, I thought he got on my tits a bit. I mean, the laugh, James, the ha 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 ha, you know, it was just cack.
I'm the absolute reverse of that. I wasn't mad about him when he was Victor Von Doom, but I think when he's Doom, he's incredible. I loved him. I just thought he was so... There's so much weird humor in it, like the bit where he leaves him to die and he comes back, like, wait 1 second, they're gone already, and it's this weird awkward pause. But I like the hand movements, he's very kind of expressive with his hands, and that's kind of a Mussolini thing I think the actor pulled. So that's a purposeful thing that's in the film. It's over the top, but like he's obviously loving what he's doing, and I think he was funny. Like, he's not really intimidating, which I think nowadays you need Doom to be, but I think he fits this film perfectly, I feel.
Do you not think a little bit Power Rangers bad guy? I got that kind of vibe. Rita Repulsa kind of.
Don't insult this film by comparing it to Power Rangers. Okay? No, honestly, I literally have in my notes here, Doom was fantastic. Like, I think, yeah, excellent. I would not change a thing about him in this film.
Well, I think I'm going to disagree with you on that. I liked the costume, but he didn't strike me as a maniacal kind of ruler. One thing in this movie is the humour. There is some great humour, and whether that's from Doom's guy that Doom sends to test all the powers, I thought that was a great couple of scenes. The lecturer at the very start of the movie, I thought was hilarious.
Oh yeah, the first note I took here, the teacher actor nailed it. I just thought he was really giving it socks. Like, yeah, I love that as well. The music in this was, I think, another level. I feel like that you could take that score and apply that to a big budget film, and it would fit perfectly. I think I've even the last couple of days I've been kind of humming to myself the main theme, and yeah, I like the kind of pantomime-y jeweler music. I think the kind of the Doom kind of epic music is great as well. So yeah, I did top notch there.
So let's touch on probably some of the most challenging elements of this, and it's strange because the special effects, James, and the costume work at times is really strong. I think other times, my life, it's. I mean, wow, the worst for me. Doom sitting on his throne with the kind of the CGC flames and shit in his throne room looks dreadful.
That didn't stick out to me when I was watching it.
I was expecting going into this, having read a lot of negativity about this, that the Mr. Fantastic effects would be horrendous. And you know, you've got that very famous broomstick in the hand.
The hand waving out yeah.
Do you know what? None of it really bothered us. I thought the fight scenes with him were pretty cool as well.
Within the movie, it's fine. I didn't really have a problem with it. I think, the visible girl effects are easy to do, I think, at this point with technology. So like that, there's nothing wrong with them. But yeah, the Human Torch, listen, they tried, like they only had $1 million for this entire thing. So like that's what you're going to get, What was the point of, this is a slight pivot. What was the point of them taking the guards' clothes when they were leaving? Because they're sneaking around anyway. They don't let anyone see them. So why did they take the people's clothes?
Perverts. Dirty bastards, aren't they?
Fair enough.
Overall, I went into this expecting to come on this show and slate this and say it's dog shit and it doesn't deserve the light of day and stuff like that. And I can't do that. I think this deserves a release. And I think if you're a comic book fan, you should at the very least check this out because it is entertaining. It's a piece of history. I would recommend people watch it. What do you think, James?
It's just a fascinating product, I think. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a piece of history. I'd seen bits of this. I'd never seen the full thing start start to finish. And I'm happy I have now, because I actually enjoyed it way more than I was expecting to. Surprisingly heartfelt, and it excels in quite a lot of areas that other Fantastic Four movies didn't, you know? So like, yeah, it's definitely the most faithful. Like, you could almost argue, I love the mid-2000s ones just out of nostalgia. You could argue that this one's the best one that they ever made, you know?
If you take away the special effects and give them a pass because of the money involved, I genuinely liked the dynamic between these four characters. It felt more cohesive as a family, and I liked the relationships more than I have in any other Fantastic Four movie. Okay, that's our review of Fantastic Four 1994 by Roger Corman, and we will be back next time with this.
How do I look? Like a hood ornament. Stand clear. What was that?
The Rocketeer.